Hi everybody, thank you so much for staying. When all those people got up, I did have a So you're here, welcome, relax. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about mental health campaigns that we're seeing in the industry that we think are really inspiring. But I want to really encourage you to be disruptive. So I want you to disagree, I want you to challenge, and I want you to debate. Because actually I think in this topic area, mental health, lots of people are so engaged and focused. There's a danger that we're kind of all admiring the problem together. I think it's really helpful if we hear from people that don't agree, don't get it, don't think we should invest, because I think that will help us move further forward. So I'm Beth Robotham, I'm Head of Business Development at Bupa. That means that I work with businesses to develop health and wellbeing strategies. I am also Vice Chair of the City Mental Health Alliance. The reason I do that is because I have my own experience of mental ill health. I talk about that because I think it's important that we do. Recovery is most common, and lots of people that you work with will have mental ill health problems, will be recovering from them, or may experience them in the future. So you all know the stats about 1 in 4, so that means about a quarter of this room, and 1 in 6 of adults will experience it in their working lifetime. So that's us as people. So this is important. So let's kick off, just get sent to the room. So you stayed, thank you so much. I'm just going to ask you to do a couple of things. So can you just raise your hand if your organisation has mental health on your HR or business agenda? So it's something you're either talking about or doing something about. Okay, so I would guess 80%, brilliant. So of those people, if you were on the motorway of mental health, which sounds a bit scary actually, but if you're on the motorway of mental health, which lane are you in? Are you in the slow lane? I know it's not called that, I'm a recent driver and people keep correcting me, it's not the slow lane, but just stay with me. Are you in the slow lane? Are you in the mid lane? Or are you in the fast lane? Okay, so lots of people didn't vote, so I'm going to guess you're somewhere in that slow or mid lane where you're either just getting started, or you are building up slowly, or you are sort of waiting to get started. So let's talk about some of the things that are going on and some of the ways that these can inspire us all to do more in mental health. Kicking off. So you probably haven't been watching the news, listening to the radio, or speaking to anyone at work if you haven't been talking about the Heads Together campaign by the royal family. I don't know if it's just because we love Harry and Will so much and want to be the lovely Catherine, but I think that it has started a really interesting debate with people in my family, with my friends, in my workplace. Isn't that fantastic that those 3 people who have probably got hundreds of things on their plate are taking the time and leadership to talk about this in public spaces? Are they diagnosing people with mental health conditions? No. Are they training to be counsellors? No. But actually, simply by talking about it, they're actually changing people's experience of mental health. So on the screen there, we've got a few examples of some of the different things going on in media, and we're going to focus on 3 next. I think that as organisations, and we've heard this morning, it can be quite intimidating to think about doing a mental health campaign. Like, how many people have done an internal mental health campaign in their business? If you could just raise your hand. Okay, so about a third. Fantastic, well done. Please share that experience with people on your table, with people in the break, because you can be mentors to others to help them feel braver and stronger to do more. Campaign is really about coming up with a period of time or content that you want to communicate with a group of people. Some organisations focus on different portions of people, so some focus on graduates. So actually, I need to leave immediately after this because I'm going to the Bank of England to talk to graduates about mental health. Some focus on senior people in the firm because they want those people to be true leaders and talk to their people about it. And again, you're probably not reading about mental health and wellbeing if you don't know that everybody is focused on line managers. I feel a bit sorry for line managers. And the reason I feel a bit sorry for them is we kind of assume that they're well and that their line manager's looking after them. So it's quite a complicated circle of trust. One missing link and the whole thing falls apart. And so I like to say to people, line managers are absolutely crucial, but actually teams to me are like little families. And it's more likely that my colleague that sits next to me is going to say, you're in early and late and you're in a terrible mood and you don't seem yourself, than my boss who I'm going to present myself to in a certain way. So I think it's really important that whilst we focus on different groups of people, actually we all have a role to play. So let's get stuck into the fun stuff. So number 1, and actually my colleague James is here. Raise your hand for us, James. Thank you. He is going to put the name of each campaign on Slido, and if you can like your favourite, that would be really helpful. So with 3 to go to, you can relax just for a second. Mental health first aid, take 10. Have people heard of mental health first aid? Some nodding heads. So they're a training organisation. They teach people a mental health version of first aid treatment. I'm very proud to say I'm an instructor. I qualified to be an instructor this year. Transformational in my own understanding of mental health, about myself and about how I support others and businesses. They have this fantastic campaign called Take 10. Now, what I love about this campaign is it sounds quite quick, 10 minutes. Most organisations can find 10 minutes in their working week, working month, working year to bring people together to talk about mental health. The other thing I like about it, given our conversations earlier about investment and funding, is that it's free. The toolkit is available to download on their website, and it gives you advice about how to organise this type of campaign. And the premise of it is really to bring people together and encourage them to talk about their mental health. Now, for some people, they'll be thinking, oh, quite a lot could happen in that 10 minutes. What if someone says something stupid? What if someone discloses something too much? I think actually if you create an environment where people are having a coffee and having a chat, and you have the right support people there, so someone from your HR department, if you're lucky enough to have an on-site medical team, bring the right people along to start that discussion. And if even only 10 people come to start with, well, that's 10 people more than last week. And I really like about this is it feels really accessible. They give you all of the stuff for free. And it's something that I feel like lots of organisations could do, particularly SMEs, where it's sometimes harder. So that's campaign 1. Campaign 2 is the Green Ribbon campaign, and this is me. So to kind of bring this one to life, I'm going to show you a video. And if pitching in my BD role has taught me anything, it's that usually the technology hates me. But we've got a fantastic team at the back, so let's see.
I'm a research assistant in the Statistics and Regulatory Data Division.
I work at the Prudential Regulation Authority on the Banking Structural Reform team.
I'm a developer in a team called Integration Services in Technology.
I'm a manager in the Prudential Regulation Authority.
I'm a secretary in the Monetary Policy Coup Division.
I'm a recovering alcoholic. I last had a drink on the 14th of December 2004.
I was ill with depression over a 4 to 5 year period, but I've been well since 2009.
I suffer from anxiety, and part of this is caused by catastrophic thinking.
In 2013, I was diagnosed with bipolar affective disorder type 2.
I've got panic disorder, which is characterised by recurrent severe anxiety attacks, and in the past I've also had some depression.
I'm a husband, I have 2 children, I love cricket, and I've started to learn to play tennis over the last few years.
I enjoy doing archery. I also do Krav Maga, and I've just passed my first exam, my P1 grading, and I also make films.
I like going to music festivals, music gigs, and going out and doing gardening. However, I've got a 4-year-old daughter now, so that's kind of limits the opportunities for me able to do that.
I enjoy playing the keyboard, listening to music, and spending time with family and friends.
I like to brew my own beer. I'm a real beer geek. I love to go to new pubs, try new things.
My name's Rob, this is my story.
I am Adam, and this is my story.
I'm Ifra, and this is my story.
I'm TJ, and this is my story.
I'm Rebecca, and this is my story.
Fantastic. So I don't know about other people, but that always really inspires me. This campaign was actually started by a business. So Barclays were the first to do this internally. And what I love about Barclays' approach is they're so brave that they then took it externally. And then they encouraged others working with the Lord Mayor's Appeal, who's really engaged in mental health in the last couple of years, to do that. So I think now over 50 organisations have made these videos. So if you're thinking, well, Bank of England's a bit different to me, if you Google, this is me, you will find a business like yours that is doing this. You could do this on an iPhone. The iPhone's pretty good these days. Not me. James would have to help me because I've talked about the technology issue already. But it doesn't have to be super expensive, and it's a good way to show people, actually, our organisation is comfortable to talk about this. I don't think there was anything in there that I thought, oh, that's a bit difficult. And it enables people to be their whole selves at work. And I think if the fantastic progress that we've made in the diversity agenda, still lots to do, has taught us is that we have to be our whole selves at work to be true performers. So please do hunt for more of those videos. So I think this is where, okay, so this should still work. So the thing they did alongside this, so actually this was started by PwC, they took an idea from Ireland and brought together the Green Ribbon campaign. So they gave everyone at work the opportunity to wear a green ribbon to show their support for mental health. They again then partnered with the Lord Mayor's campaign and City Mental Health Alliance, and they took that to hundreds of businesses this year in the Mental Health Awareness Week, and 70,000 people wore ribbons. And I know it's 70,000 because they ran out. And it created such a tremendous discussion in the city. It enabled people to support without actually having to share their experience. It just, you know, like LGBT allies. It just said, you know what, actually I'm comfortable to talk about this and to support you and be open about this in the workplace. This is my personal favourite, so I hope it gets lots of votes. So fantastic. Now this arguably is a bit harder to orchestrate, but I think there's lots of role modelling, and there's no reason why a few organisations that are similar couldn't get together to share the cost. The Green Ribbon campaign is very low cost and is run by somebody else. So again, if you wanted to just do one small thing in the next 12 months, that could be the thing that you do. So the last one is a Fraggle Cafe. So this one's a bit different and quite new and emerging. So Ruby Wax, as many of you know, is a very keen speaker about mental health, following her own experience. And she actually went back and trained to be a neurologist, I think, or trained in neurology to learn more about the brain chemistry and how it works. And she did a tour of, I think, the UK and the globe, talking about her mental health experience. And what she found was people would hang around afterwards and would want to talk to her. And those people typically felt, as she described it, frazzled. They wanted to talk to someone. And they have now partnered with Fraggle Cafe to create spaces for the public to come along and talk about their mental health in a supportive environment. And Marks and Spencer's have been very bold and said, actually, we will sponsor this in our cafes and we will do things, you know, we will create space for people. So the principles here for me are more about this sort of collaboration. They've piloted it, and they've got, you know, help from people that have already got the space. You know, lots of businesses don't have cafes. Well, there will be cafes near your offices. You know, wouldn't it be amazing if like a Starbucks or a Costa or someone got behind this? And then we could talk to them about the tax as well. So we cover quite a lot. So, final slide, and I'm just going to sum up because I want to make sure we finish on time. But this to me was my favourite day of the year. So this was Mental Health Awareness Week, and these businesses lit themselves up green to show support in the community. So actually businesses are now taking it outside of their office space and saying in the public with their green ribbons, with their This Is Me videos, and lighting up their buildings to say, you know, we are supportive of and open to talking about mental health. I have no idea how much it costs to light up your building green. I'm going to assume it's not free. But again, let it inspire us for the things that we could do. I don't think we always have to copy. And I love this phrase I heard yesterday at the 30% Club, and they were talking about mentoring and the role of mentoring in gender equality. And they said, great minds don't think alike. And I love that. And I'm going to kind of write that everywhere when I'm doing a project, because actually information failure is typically what drives problems in performance. And information failure is usually because your network isn't strong enough. And so in mental health, I'd love us to create an information sharing network following work that things like Business in the Community and City Mental Health Alliance do, so we can share lots of best practice. But as I said at the beginning, I think it's really important that we're disruptive. So if you're thinking, this doesn't really work for my organisation because ... you know, let's talk about that, let's challenge each other and let's look to solve problems together. Because most of this room raised their hand at the beginning and said, my organisation is thinking about mental health. And not many people put their hand up confidently and said, we think we're in the fast lane doing this really well. Well, actually, then there's loads for us to talk about. So hopefully you've had a chance to vote on Slido. If you don't, please do now, because I'm really interested to hear which ones you like. I don't know if we'll see it on screen, but I'm sure James will shout to me kindly.
The numbers there jumping up.
Got my fingers crossed, my favourite. Yay! I'm sure people will still continue to vote, but thank you so much for participating in that. I would say if there are other campaigns that you've seen that you think actually this is better, feel free to, you know, contact me on Twitter or on LinkedIn, because I think it's really important that we highlight all of this best practice. And the one I wanted to finish on, because I think it's a really good example of playing to your strengths, is Marks and Spencer's did a great campaign last year, which is about the elephant in the room about mental health. Now, I think if there's one thing we can all agree on is that Marks and Spencer's advertising and marketing team are pretty talented. And you know, they used their strength, which was marketing and advertising, to create a campaign internally that worked for them. Now that may not be the strength in your organisation, but there will be one for sure. And so play to that and see what that team can do to help you with this. So if you're an investment firm, well, they've got to be able to help you with the ROI discussion, building on some of what we heard earlier. So thank you very much. But as I said, I kind of want to charge everybody to kind of debate, disrupt, and try something different. Thank you very much. We've got time for questions, haven't we? Do we have time for questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
Any questions from anyone? I think we've got one. Oh.
You actually, we've got some. So I'll shout a little and hopefully it'll catch me on the mic there. So one of the top questions is, are mental health campaigns and wellness groups better received by employees when they are HR-led or non-HR-led?
Brilliant question. My personal view is non-HR led. I think that for the people, by the people, as I call it, which sounds very revolutionary, but I think in this day and age, probably not so shocking. People who believe in this topic will typically be people that have had previous experience. They will be very thoughtful about how you do this, and it will feel like it's not the business saying, we want you to work harder, so look after yourself, which is something I commonly hear from employees. I don't believe that that's where employees are coming from, but we know how cynical people can feel about information they receive. So I think for the people, by the people, but if you disagree, tell me.
Thank you very much, Beth. And I think we've probably got room for one more, which is fantastic. So, let's have a look. What have we got there? Let's go. Oh, is mental health the new bad bad?
So that one as well. That's a good one. I love that question. So I think that as people feel more confident to talk about mental health, actually mental health isn't becoming more common. It was always there. We just haven't been as comfortable to talk about it, arguably, depending on the culture of the country that you're in. I think that people are comfortable enough to talk about it like it's the new bad back, and I think that's the key thing. I think it's already, and I think Soraya and the team did a fantastic job earlier talking to us about some of the stats, and Mercer and others are here. I don't think necessarily we're seeing massive swings in what proportion it is of people's healthcare claims, but actually what we are starting to see is great news that people are getting help earlier. But wouldn't it be fantastic if people would come in to the office and talk about their mental health like they would a bad back? Because in my own personal experience, I kept it quiet, held on to it, because I was worried what people would think. But if I've hurt myself running, which I do often, as my colleagues know, it's the first thing you're going to hear about, and you're going to follow me through that treatment journey. So, you know, I think that, you know, let's hope so, I would say. Let's hope so.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. And I think we've probably just about got time for one more, which is, how can you get those affected by mental health involved in the This Is Me videos? So that's a great news.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And actually, we're thinking about this for our organisation, so at Bupa, and how do we find people that are comfortable to talk about it, but make sure that they don't feel like they're being hunted. Because sometimes there's a handful of people. So what we're planning to do is starting with a sort of Take 10 session. So let's have a Take 10 and invite people to come along and think about and talk about mental health, and then let's tell them about our plan, and then that way the people that are keen to be involved will be. I think it's really, really important that we share stories, and I've talked about that earlier, but I equally think it's important that that's not seen as a burden or a necessity on someone that's had a mental health experience. I didn't talk about my experience in the marketplace for 6 or 7 years, and that was the right decision for me. And so I equally think, you know, people need to be ready. And quite often when you're recovering from any kind of illness, you feel galvanised to do something. I think with mental health, it's really important that we kind of coach and give people the space to think about when the right time is for them. And a last little plug, there are people involved in the City Mental Health Alliance that can help coach people through that. So if you're interested, contact me by any of the social media or more. My details in the book.
That's great.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic.